All right, in the face of the growing outcry over his silence on the topic, President Biden finally spoke this afternoon on the suspected Chinese spy balloon, as well as three other unidentified airborne objects that recently have been shot down over the United States and Canada.
We don't have any evidence that there has been a sudden increase in the number of objects in the sky. We're now just seeing more of them, partially because the steps we've taken to increase our radars, to narrow our radars. And we have to keep adapting our approach to dealing with these challenges.
All right, like you, I know that raises a lot of questions. Of course, that was the president today from the White House. Well, what can we learn from these remarks, albeit belated remarks? Well, I can think of no one better to discuss this topic with than FRC's Executive Vice President, retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin. He spent the last 4 years of his illustrious 36-year military career serving as the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. He was also one of the original members of the U.S. Army's Delta Force. So all of us at FRC make sure to keep him happy. General, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Good to be with you, Jody.
All right. You have been on top of this issue. Let's just begin with your initial thoughts on the president's remarks today.
Well, I didn't think he told us very much there. And I can understand why the Congress is so frustrated with, they must have had more information than we got today from him. But that said, I think it's important for us to understand that there was something that the president was right about, and that is that the radars, the NORAD radars that are located up in Canada as well as up in Alaska, are set to detect fast-flying and high-altitude objects. You can call those missiles, bombers, fighters, or whatever you choose. But they're not set to actually recognize something that's flying that low and that slow as these items were. So he's right in saying that our radars have not been set up to be able to see these things. And were it not for the people in Montana who spotted the first balloon, we probably wouldn't have known that was up there. But I think that what he told us today was that they apparently haven't even found these three that were shot down over the weekend. I mean, I took away no knowledge or understanding of what they've done in terms of exploitation of these things. So I'm asking the question, how do you know these were not associated with the Chinese? If you haven't found them, how do you know they're not associated with the Chinese or their surveillance program, or that they're either from some organization that is doing weather surveys or something else? How do you know that? And my satisfaction, there was no answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question that many of us are asking. What were these things, and what was the purpose? Who was behind them? And it is stunning, as you brought up, that we still don't either we're not being told the answers, or the administration does not know the answers. They conceded by saying they may have even been commercial, which begs the question, so did we shoot down some commercial balloons or whatever they were while allowing a Chinese spy balloon to traverse the entire country without shooting it down? If that's the case, it poses even more questions, doesn't it?
It does. It does for me, at least. The one thing that he did say, I guess, was he laid out four things that he was going to do immediately in terms of codifying the procedures that we would go through when we have a future incident like this, and some of the other things that he was going to do. Well, those are all good, but you have to be set up to be able to see them if you're going to deal with them, and that has been our problem in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't see them, then we're totally vulnerable. You know, I'm kind of wondering at this point, General, is the possibility there that be it China or perhaps another country, another one of our adversaries out there, is initiating these airspace intrusions, if you will, maybe not for surveillance, but purely to learn what our response is going to be?
I think you've nailed it. I think that is, I'm sure that that balloon was on a legitimate surveillance mission, legitimate but illegal in our airspace. But that said, I also am pretty sure that this was the Chinese testing our reaction time, testing our communications and how long it takes us to communicate to the Air Force that would take these things out, how long it takes us to make the decision to do so, and what are our procedures. I think all of that was a reconnaissance by the Chinese to find out more about what we would do, and the next one may be different.
Are you concerned that somehow we could potentially be being lured into a pattern of responses so that we shoot down, we shoot down, we shoot down, and then it's kind of anticipated what we're going to do, and somehow an adversary may attempt to go around what our pattern of responses may be?
Well, that's why I call it a reconnaissance. You do your reconnaissance, you figure out what your enemy does, how he operates, and then you figure out a workaround for all of those things that you would find problematic. But yeah, I think that there's a very good possibility that this is what's happening right now. And let me just say this. I think that the Chinese are going to do this again. Let me just say that. I don't think we're on the edge of nuclear war, but they're going to do this again. They're going to continue doing this, and they're going to continue doing it because they've told us that they would when they wrote the treatise by two colonels, two PLA colonels that wrote a treatise in 1998 called Unrestricted Warfare. All this audience that's on today should look it up online, Unrestricted Warfare. And they told us then, these two colonels, PLA colonels, told us exactly how they would take over America. And you see it unfolding right now.
Unbelievable. General, we've only got a little over 30 seconds, but yesterday there was an interesting exchange in the Senate Armed Services Committee and dealing with the military's woke policies that are taking place. Let me just play this clip real quickly. I want your quick response.
I'm afraid that the more that we have partisan and political fights, the more our adversaries think that we're weak. I've made that point many times in public before. They watch all of this, and frankly, they think we've lost it. So the more I'm afraid that we make statements like this, the more that we start attacking our fellow Americans for whatever perspective we think they come from, the more that Russia and China think that we're working ourselves out of history.
General, we got just 10 seconds. Your thoughts about the woke policy in the military?
It's destroying our readiness, and if we don't change our focus, we'll never be ready to meet China on the battlefield.